Hi, and welcome to Carolina Varsity's look at the 2014 NCHSAA playoffs. I'm Dale Ross.
And I'm Matt Morrow.
Matt, this next game again is in the Big 4A. This is number 15 Olympic at 5 and 6, going over to play Independence, number 2, 11 and 0. So Independence team that is undefeated. It's been a while since there's been a undefeated team at Independence, but since the Tom Knotts years that we've had that. And here we are with a Independence team undefeated. These two teams met earlier in the season. I actually happened to be at that ball game. It was a 28-0 win by Independence. Olympic had struggles. Maybe part of those struggles because it was early in the season, but they really struggled offensively and getting plays in, and having delays, and just weren't really in sync. Defensively, they played relatively well. They had a couple of scores that were called back in that game. On one I thought was a bad call, and the other I have no idea. But on the flip side, I didn't think Independence played a great ball game either. They put up 28 points and they won, but I felt like they were a better team than what they showed in that ball game. I thought they were a lot better team, and when I saw them, I believe it was the next week or the week after against West Mecklenburg, they showed that they are a better team. They were making mistakes in their own right within the game. The players were, but they won the ball game. So I don't know if you want to say there was any adversity. It's kind of hard to think there'd be any adversity in a 28-0 win, but I do believe that they had struggles within the team that they needed to address and fix. And to me, it looks like they've done that with going all the way through the season. People harped about their schedule. I'm of the opinion you don't have to play tough teams. You really want to play your tough teams later. Really what you want to do is test your teams enough to understand where your weaknesses are so that you know what to fix. But you really don't want to play teams that you know you're going to lose, because you don't. When you come to the playoffs now, they go to seed, and then they had the toughest team. They played the toughest schedule in the state, and they lost 3 out-of-conference games. Well, that's going to drop them down to where you're probably not going to have any home games, and you're going to have a tough playoff run. So it's not always wise to play the toughest teams. And a good coach once told me it's better to build confidence in your players, by wins, and have a little bit of a push. And I think that's what Independence had. They had a huff in the regular season, and here they are at the playoffs, and they proved by their wins over Rocky River, Myers Park, and the big win over Butler.
Mm-hmm. With Olympic, we faced them a couple of weeks ago, and I tell you, they looked like they were clicking on all cylinders. Now, we weren't the best team this past season, but some of the things you mentioned in terms of getting plays in and so forth and so on, they were very efficient. Their offense moved up and down the field, and last week they beat Berry in a very big game to get them into the playoffs. So they faced some battles, and they did enough to get where they're in the playoffs. And anytime you're facing a rematch in the first round, the team that won doesn't want to see that.
Right.
Because, Olympics got built-in motivation to come back and, get a win now. And they know they didn't play their best, like you mentioned, and Independence didn't play their best either. Last week Independence had the huge win over Butler. Very emotional. They got over a hump, so to speak, after losing to Butler in so many tight games the past couple of years. Coach Evans done a heck of a job, after, getting some criticism last year of some of the past Independence teams, not living up to those standards, so forth and so on. They brought in some old alumni on the staff, and now they got that kind of old big eye swagger, if you want to call it that. Looking at the game on the field, Olympics going to have to find a way to slow down Kelvin Hopkins. He makes the thing go on offense. Defensively, Independence is much improved, and Olympics going to have to really do a good job up front and controlling the Independence front seven. Independence has defensive backs that are good enough to play one-on-one and pass coverage, And Olympic with Coach Wilkes, they're going to run that wing tee. He's kind of thrown the ball a little bit more this year than he has in the past. So Olympic's a little more balanced than you might expect, but the key to that is offensive line. Mm-hmm. And Olympic does a lot of rollouts and so forth and so on to try to get their dual threat quarterback out. And once he gets in space, he's a load to handle. Yeah. He's very athletic. He can throw the ball well. But over the course of 4 quarters, can the Olympic offensive line hold off Independence's defensive line? And I think that's going to be an area where Olympic's going to struggle a little bit here. Mm-hmm. Independence is playing very well. And, right now they're at the top of the heap in terms of Charlotte. They're undefeated. They went through all the battles. And now they're getting ready to get back on that championship run. And, I really see them, doing well in this game against Olympic. And, I think it'll be a good night on Friday for Independence. Yeah, but like I've said before, it's a high school kids, and anything can happen. And Olympic does have some athletes, and they really do. And if Independence lets them hang around, it could be interesting come the second half. But after you have a big win like Independence did last week, I find it hard to bet against them right now.
Right. Well, you mentioned athletes, and obviously I've known a lot about Olympic over the years, and quite honestly, athletic-wise, this is one of the better teams that I've seen at Olympic in a long time. Mm-hmm. They got that big defensive end that,
oh goodness,
yes. If that kid had been able to play public school football last year, he's going to go to a Tennessee. His first offer was Tennessee. He's going to go to a big Division I place, and I would predict that by his sophomore year in college, people will be talking about him in the same breath that they talked about Genovian Clowney.
Wow.
Because I think that this kid has all the same tools. He just needs to learn a little bit more about position, aggressiveness, and et cetera. But he's got the. I saw him in that South Met game run down. Mm-hmm. Come around from the other end and run down quarterbacks and running down your skill position guys. He's got speed near the skill position guys. Dorsey at quarterback is the fastest kid in the city. He's a trackster. He's I think the fastest in the 100 in the city, and one of the fastest. I think he's like number 2 in the state or something like that.
Wow.
To me, I've seen a lot of kids this year, and that's the most underrated kid that I've seen play this year is Dorsey. He is an exceptional dual threat quarterback. If you placed him on an Independence or a Butler, he might actually do more, and I'll say it, he might actually do more than Williams. I think the kid's got the abilities, but you got to have that supporting cast, and that's the line play is going to be big here, I think, because Independence in their own right has got some, that big defensive lineman as well.
Cologne.
Yep. So they got to worry about him. So I'm with you. I think it should be a big night for Independence. It should be. If there's no letdown from the Butler game, people argue with me, well-coached teams don't have this problem. Bull. You just beat Butler, high emotional game. You beat Olympic 28-0, the team that you're facing now at their place, and you got them coming in. It's not hard for a kid to get in his mind, this is not a game, and I got to worry about, I'm going to worry about other things. So, and just to mention on the last season about the ragging on Evans, he did get a lot of ragging, but when you go back and look at their losses, everything was under 1 score.
Yeah.
I think they, were like under 3 a lot of those losses. So, really it wasn't a bad team last year. They just lost some close ball games, and this year, they won the big close ball game that they had to win, which of course was the Butler game. So, personally, I think it's going to be a big game for Independence. But this is another kind of team you can't just overlook them
No.
because they can bite you. Good ball game Friday night for both fan bases. This is round 2 of the playoffs, by the way, for Olympic. They had to win last week
Yeah.
to beat Berry to get in, so they're actually in round 2 for them. So 6-round potential playoffs. Enjoy the ball games. Thanks.